yesterday on CNN. I think it was The Lead, was the show. They had this California Congressman Devin Nunes. I don't know anything about him. I would bet that Obama took his district. That's the first thing that comes to mind. We'll look that up. I think he's in the 24th district of California. That's just a bet. And I say that completely blind because the guy is sounding somewhat reasonable. Although when you start to scratch the surface, you realize there is no reason in the Republican caucus. There's just, some level of shame, but it's not huge. All right, so this is David Nunes on the CNN's The Lead. There's a couple of people on there. I think it's Jake Tapper and Gloria Borgia. Listen to this guy explain what's going on in the House now and understand something. The reason why we do not have a budget, the reason why the government has shut down, is not because there are so many Republicans who would vote against a continuing resolution. It is because John Boehner has decided his speakership is the most important thing at play here. If he brought a bill to the floor, which he could do, that said we're going to continue to fund the government at its current levels, which, as you will note, because of the sequester, are far closer to the levels that Paul Ryan was crying about in his budget than anything else that's been offered over the past 2 or 3 years by anybody. If he brought this continuing resolution to the floor, it would pass easily, with the entire Democratic caucus voting for it and at least 17 Republicans voting for it. We know this. No one contends otherwise. You need to know that when you hear this clip. Here's Congressman Devin Nunes. He calls his Republican colleagues nutsos, and then he says, and incidentally, I have the spine of a jellyfish. Go.
Congressman Nunes, I want to start with you. Obviously, you're not a supporter of Obamacare in particular, but why would you call your fellow Republicans lemmings with suicide vests? What's the issue here?
Well, thank you for having me on. A few months ago, back in my district and in Washington, I started hearing this strategy that was laid out that shut down the government, don't fund Obamacare, and don't stop until Obamacare is ended. And I thought from the beginning that that was really couldn't be done. And it's really just a matter of math. Right? Because
you don't have the Senate and you don't have the White House.
Right. And you would need technically, and it's not even, what some of my constituents were saying, well, we only need 5 senators. Well, as the folks here in Washington know, you need 60 votes just to end debate, and it took 60 votes to implement Obamacare. And I just don't think as long as there's a guy named Obama in the White House that you're going to get rid of Obamacare without a veto. So assuming that you got the 60 votes, assuming President Obama vetoed the bill, which he would, you then need 67 votes in the United States Senate and 290 votes in the House. So it's just a matter of math. It was a silly strategy from the beginning. And this whole lemming issue came up because one of my colleagues, who I was having a direct conversation with, decided to leak it outside of the room. And so I walked out and they asked me about it. So that's how it got out public.
But you said it, right? I mean, lemmings.
You think it's bad for the Republican Party?
Yeah, well, it's crazy. I don't understand the whole point, the whole strategy. Most Americans don't understand it. But look, I have supported it. I will support our leadership because part of this problem in this whole group that I referred to.
Pause it. I don't understand why we're doing this. It doesn't make any sense. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're all lemmings. We're all lemmings with suicide vests. We're lemmings. What we're doing is ridiculous. Just go back a couple of seconds. And now he's going to explain to you why he is lemming along with the rest of them.
But look, I have supported it. I will support our leadership because part of this problem in this whole group that I referred to, this has been ongoing for 3 years, where they've continued to block our leadership for 3 years to get 218 votes.
The Lemming Caucus, you're talking about Tea Party caucus.
Well, it's not Tea Party caucus,
No.
not at all. It's a Lemming Caucus. It's guys who meet privately. They're always conspiring. It's mostly just about power, and it's just gotten us nowhere.
But if,
Pause it.
But if that's
now,
the
pause
case,
it. Pause it.
and if
Pause it. Now, why he's saying this? He's saying this is just about the real problem here is not that I disagree with the Tea Party, or it's that there are people who are not listening to the leadership, and I'm not going to not listen to the leadership who is going along with this strategy, because then I'll be part of the problem too. What? On one hand, he's saying that Bonaire is being held hostage. On the other hand, he's saying, I'm not going to buck his being held hostage because then I would be like a hostage taker. This guy is tying himself up in knots here. Continue.
And it's just gotten us nowhere.
But if that's the case, and if they're lemmings, and if you actually understand simple math that you can't get this done, then why not be more aggressive? I mean, I know that there's sort of a growing number of people like you who want to have pass a clean bill to fund the government and just move on.
A clear majority of the Republican Party in the House, right?
It seems that way. So why not put your vote where your mouth is?
Well, because well, first of all, you have to vote on what's in front of you.
But why not get
So
John Boehner can put whatever he wants in front of you?
So if you want to do that and start bringing down rules, basically, is what you're talking about. You're talking about doing the same thing that got us in this mess in the first place.
Pause
so
it.
the leadership made a position.
He's saying the same thing that got us in this place in the first place was people bucking the leadership. So I'm not going to buck the leadership, even though what it's doing is so bad that I'm gumming on TV to distance myself from it. But party discipline uber alles, and even if it's party discipline that leads us all over the edge of a cliff. This guy's so full of crap, it's unbelievable. Taking zero responsibility for what's going on there. Zero. None. Zero. And these people around him on CNN are talking to him and asking questions as if he's a reasonable human being. Continue. How much time we got on this? Couple seconds. That's it. That's all it is there. And this is what passes for, some show of courage in the Republican caucus, right? This guy's being hailed as someone who's sensible. Well, I'm not going to buck the leadership now because that type of, in breaking rules, you know what rule he's talking about breaking? The Hastert rule. You know what the Hastert rule is? Not a rule. That's something that somebody made up and just said, hey, here's a rule. That rule is we're not going to put anything to the floor unless every Republican wants it on the floor. That's a made-up rule. That's just, there's no rule there. It's just, this is the way that we're going to ask it. And Speaker Denny Hastert, who the rule supposedly is named after, he says it never existed. It's not a rule. It's a habit. So we have around the country now 800,000 workers who have been furloughed, kicked out of their jobs. They will probably never see back pay. We have 1.3 million people who are now working without pay. They may or may not see back pay. It is ridiculous.